Shalom, everybody. How are you today? Very happy to see you, even though I can't see you, but I hope you can see me. Today is Monday, July the 20th, and very happy to once again be together with you for our weekly lesson in Pirkei Avot, Ethics of the Fathers. Today, I would like to dedicate our Pirkei Avot session and lesson to two lovely people. Their names are Gladys and Jeff Hirschhorn, who came here, made Aliyah 5 years ago to Efrat. We both live in the same community, and I see them often. And when they came here 5 years ago to Efrat, they made a lot of people happy, especially their daughter, Kimberly Amzel, and her family, who live in Ma'ale Adumim. They lived just right up the street when we lived in Ma'ale Adumim, so we were very close neighbors. And very, very happy to dedicate this to them for their 5th Aliyah versary. So Mazel Tov, Gladys and Jeff Hirschhorn. Thank you for listening all the time. Really appreciate that. And may you have many, many beautiful, fruitful, healthy, wonderful, joyous years here in Efrat, here in Eretz Yisrael, together with your wonderful family and your many friends. So that's all the time we have today. I'm kidding. Again, happy to have you with us. Pleased to announce that the video that we did last Wednesday night, which was all about 5 Derech Eretz lessons in the weekly Torah portion, as of a few minutes ago, had over 500 views, which I keep on saying this. I really thank everybody that views. I thank all the people that watch, all the people that are kind enough to leave a message or to ask a question. So I thank you very, very much for this wonderful encounter. And let's jump in to today's teaching of Pirkei Avot, which you'll find in chapter 2, Mishnah number 6, teaching number 6, chapter 2, Mishnah 6. These are more teachings from Hillel, the ever-popular Hillel, who spent most of his life on Jewish college campuses. He did not. But you know that the Hillel houses on college campuses and university campuses are called Hillel houses. Hillel houses, and they were named after Hillel. So there's a few teachings that are very compact in this Mishnah, in this teaching. Let's start from the very beginning. Hu haya omer. Hillel used to say the following: Ein bur yarei chet. An ignorant or an unrefined, uncouth person cannot be the type to fear sin. It's interesting, the word bur in Hebrew and the word bur in English is pretty much the same thing. It's what is a bore? When you call somebody that, you're describing somebody who's not particularly polished, not particularly educated, not particularly good in etiquette or manners. You say they're boorish. So I'm not a big fan of that term, by the way. I don't like to use terms like that. Oi, what a bore. It's not part of my comfortable vocabulary. But Hillel says that if you are such a person, you're not likely to fear sin. And one of the reasons he says you're not likely to fear sin is because if you're a bore, you probably don't know what a sin is. You may not be familiar with that term or that concept of a sin. So if you're not educated, whether it's Jewishly educated, secularly, otherwise educated, you're not likely to have a good sense of what a sin is. And he also says, V'lo am haaretz chasid. And the person who is an am haaretz, which is another kind of derogatory term. I remember as a kid in shul, unfortunately, hearing this term thrown back and forth from some of the adults in the shul. When they wanted to say somebody is uneducated or they particularly didn't really like them, they would say, you're a big amaretz, which is not a nice thing. It's an insulting term, meaning you know nothing, you are nothing, you'll be nothing, and it's that kind of a term. So Rabbi Hillel is saying, V'lo am haaretz chasid, that one who is uneducated, they may be immersed in the affairs of the world, but not particularly in the ways of the Torah, they will never become a chassid. Now, it doesn't mean a chassid wearing, different kinds of headgear, and Rudolph the Red knows headgear, so go to that person and buy whatever you need. It's not like a man or a woman that have specific headgear. They look Hasidic, or the payas. The men have the payas, the long curly locks. He is saying that if you are not educated enough, you will not become a chassid. And here's what he means. This is generally what I've taken from all the commentaries on this part of the Mishnah, which I don't particularly gravitate to. I don't like the terms Amaretz. I don't like the term bur. But basically what Hillel seems to be saying is that if you're not Jewishly educated or otherwise faith educated, you will only likely do what is called the letter of the law. The letter of the law, which is what we call in Hebrew, Meshurat Hadin. You will do what it says in the Torah or what it says in your faith book, whatever it is. You will do that, and because you're not that educated, etc., you're not likely to go beyond it. However, if you are educated, faith educated, you are likely to do what is called in Hebrew, lifnim mishurat hadin. You are likely to go beyond the letter of the law. So there's the law, and there's beyond the letter of the law. I'm going to give you just a couple of examples, but I'll just first tell you that it says in the Talmud there are many reasons why the temple or the temples were destroyed. One of them is because of baseless hatred. Another reason that the Talmud gives that the temples were destroyed is because the Jewish people at that time, first temple, or second temple, I'd have to check and see exactly which one it's talking about. At the time of the temples, the Jewish people did not do enough beyond the letter of the law. They just did what they were told or what was written, but they didn't get the spirit of it. And the spirit of a law is to go beyond the letter of the law and to do something more. What would be an example? You have children, and they have a very messy room. So you say, does that happen? Anyway, not sure. They have a very messy room, and you say to them, Mommy and Daddy would appreciate it if you clean up this room, and you've got a couple of hours to do it. Please clean up the room. So, it's probably an archaeological dig at this point, and they clean up the room, and now you go into the room to see how are they doing. And you see that they've not only cleaned up the room, they've put everything in the right drawer, everything in the right place in the closet. Not only that, but they've put all of the stuff that's not good anymore, the broken toys, the clothes that they cannot wear, and they're disheveled, they're spotted, whatever. They've put them in bags. And not only that, they've taken the bags of garbage and put them near the garbage so they can be taken out tomorrow. And who's going to take them out tomorrow? Your kids tell you, we will. So you can see how there's the letter of the law, clean up the room, and then there is beyond the letter of the law, which means getting the spirit of what was asked or required of you. And that's the whole point of this teaching, that once you are faith educated, you are more likely to do what we call beyond the letter of the law. So in Jewish terms, our obligation to give tzedakah, to give charity, is a tenth. A tenth of our earnings we set aside for charitable purposes. If you want to go beyond the letter of the law, you want to do 12 of them? Wow, 12%? That's great. That's beyond the letter of the law. Here in Efrat, we often pick up people who tramp, people in the neighborhood who need to go from one neighborhood to the other, and it's hitching a ride basically. So you say to them, "Where are you going?" Or "Where we're going? We're going to this neighborhood." Oh, that's great. They get in. Now, the requirement would be once they're in is to take them to as close as you can to their neighborhood. That would be the law, if you will. But to go beyond the letter of the law is to say to them, listen, I see you have a lot of packages and stuff. Where do you live exactly? We're happy to drop you off at home. And that's beyond the letter of the law, and it's very appreciated. So these are the kinds of things I think that Hillel is talking about, that it's not just the law, but it's beyond the letter of the law that makes God really, really happy. And if we are educated in our faith tradition, whatever it is, we will more likely make God happy by doing things that are not just the law, but they are beyond the letter of the law. In Hebrew, again, lifnim mishurat hadin, beyond the letter of the law. So that is Hillel's first teaching in chapter 2, mission number 6. And now he gets to something that's a little bit more familiar, where he says, Velo ha-baishan lamed. A shy person is not likely to be very knowledgeable. A shy person is not able to learn. So you can say, why not? You know, they open the book, they'll read whatever is needed, or they'll go on an internet site, whatever, they'll read whatever is needed, and they'll become, great scholars just by doing that. What Hillel is saying is that if you're in front of a teacher, it could be now, if you're in front of a teacher, and you are shy, you are bashful, I'm thinking of the seven dwarfs, of course. I bet you were too. Don't tell me you weren't. You are embarrassed. You're embarrassed to ask a question because the rest of the people in the class will think you're an idiot, God forbid, or the teacher will think you're crazy, whatever. Hillel is saying that the bashful, shy person is not likely to learn well. Why? Because they're not asking. They may really be curious, but they can't put it through their mouths because they're afraid of being thought of as dumb or uneducated or whatever. So Hillel is telling us, no, don't let your fear of being embarrassed be greater than your desire to learn. If you have a desire to learn, ask, challenge respectfully. You should respectfully challenge. Ask for a repetition from the teacher. I'm sorry, I didn't catch it the first time. What did you say? Would you mind repeating that? I just didn't get it. Ask for clarification. Ask for a new way to understand it. I was teaching a class this morning on Zoom, and I was teaching part of this lesson, and I reminded myself of a teacher I had at Yeshiva University whose Yiddish was fabulous, but there were no Yiddish-speaking people in the class. So that's a really great combo, isn't it? He was not very good in English. So when he would try to explain something, we kind of have to understand between the lines and all that kind of stuff. Wasn't very simple. And then when we would ask him, would you please clarify what you just said? How did he clarify it? In the exact same words as he just clarified it. So it added nothing. It added nothing. And so we would ask him again, Rabbi, fill in the blank, could you just say that in a different way? And because he wasn't very good in English, he would say it the exact same, not understandable way. And we were left bereft of many lessons that could have been explained really good, except he wasn't able to. So ask for clarification, ask for understanding, resist being quiet. Speak up. You got something to say? Ask. Resist being too inquisitive. Don't say, oh, I've already asked 10 questions now. I'm sure I'm a big pain in the whatever. No, ask. You're there to learn, and you should ask until you got it. And that's a very, very great teaching from Hillel. Some commentators compare this lesson and what they would like people to do to if you're walking somewhere, driving somewhere, and you're lost. You don't have Waze, you don't have any MapQuest or anything else like that. Don't be embarrassed to ask for directions, or else you don't know where you're going. Okay? I could make all kind of Jewish men jokes about not asking for directions, but I will resist the temptation and not say that now, okay? But in the same way you wouldn't be embarrassed to ask for directions, don't be embarrassed to ask a clarifying question. Do it in a respectable way. And the truth is that if you don't ask the questions, sometimes, it's happened to me and it's happened when I'm the student, sometimes a teacher will jump into a topic or a subject assuming that everybody knows kind of like the basics of the subject. So you're going to be doing somebody a great favor by saying, excuse me, what do you mean by matzah? Or something like, excuse me, what do you mean by? And that reminds the teacher and everyone, oh yeah, we don't know the basics. So Hillel is teaching it very, very important not to be a silent type in a classroom. Get your nerves going, ask a question, get clarification, and you will be better for it, the teacher will be better for it, and all the people in the room all the other students will be so much better because you spoke up and you asked, and that's good modeling for what people in a classroom or learning situation ought to be doing. So Hillel says, "Velo habaishan lamed." The shy person is not going to be able to learn. And then he follows it up with this one. What about the teachers? "Velo hakapdan melamed." And a teacher who is impatient, a teacher who is quick-tempered, a teacher who jumps down the throat of the students, whether it's young people or adults. I've seen that. I've seen impatient teachers jump down the throat of well-meaning, well-intentioned questioning people. It's not a good thing. But this is what Hillel says, "Lo hakapdan melamed." If you are a teacher that is quick-tempered, impatient, you've got issues, whatever, you should not be teaching. You're almost a disaster waiting to happen in a classroom. Why? So you could probably think of various reasons yourself. Some of the commentators say, why would that be? Well, because a quick-tempered, impatient teacher might reply to a student in a way that labels them for the rest of their lives. For example, what, you don't understand this? What are you, stupid? Now, a phrase like that, whether you're a young person or an adult or in the middle, is likely to ring in your ear for a long time. Some would say forever. What are you, stupid? Sometimes we hear that, unfortunately, from parents. And it marks us for the rest of our lives. So an impatient teacher who is going to be not careful with their words, is going to be insensitive, and doesn't know how to temper their temper, should not be teaching. This is what Hillel is telling us. The students are going to be afraid to ask. They'll be afraid to be shouted down or shouted at. People are less likely to learn from somebody who is a teacher like that. When everybody's kind of on the edge in a classroom, it is not a good learning environment. And another commentary says, you know something? The teacher's teaching will be deficient because if they are left unchallenged, they are not going to be thinking creatively. And an angry teacher, not thinking creatively, not knowing the best way to bring the students into the topic, that's not a good situation in a classroom at all. So Hillel has this tandem teaching. Lo habaishan lamed. In a learning situation, the shy person is not going to learn maximally what they could or should learn. And a teacher who is impatient, who shouts, who is not kind or sensitive to the students' needs, and they're ill-tempered, should not be a teacher. And, by the way, I would say to you, if you are parents of children, and the children come back and they say, whether they're being taught on Zoom or live, whatever, and they say, I got yelled at by somebody in a not a nice way. This teacher was shouting at me. I would pick up the phone right away and say something to whoever's in charge and say, this is not the way you teach children, and I would appreciate it if that teacher would not do that any more times to either my child or any child. And then you raise a little bit of a ruckus if it continues. I think that's how important it is to make sure that students, children or adults, learn in a positive atmosphere, a positive, enthusiastic environment, not where people are afraid to open their mouths because of the teacher and what they might say. This is what Hillel is teaching us, and I think he's brilliant to say it. The next to the last teaching that he has in chapter 2, Mishnah 6, he says, V'lo chol hamarbeh b'schora machkim. Not everybody who is a big success in business is wise. Basically, he's saying, you know something, if you've made it big in business, if you're really doing well, You had a startup company and you can't believe how successful you've been. Thank God, you're successful. It's going beautifully. You're making enough money to, feed your neighborhood and the rest of the generations for who knows how long to come. But Hillel says that if you are such a type of a person who's doing very well in business, you become very rich, very wealthy, it doesn't mean that it makes you wise. What makes you wise? This is Hillel's contention. What makes you wise is your faith document, whatever it is. It's your Torah, it's your Quran, it's your whatever, the Bible. That's what gives you wisdom. And if you don't have that kind of a wisdom, you may be very, very rich and wealthy in terms of your business, but you're going to be undernourished in terms of your spirit. The matters of the spirit will remain undernourished and ignored. So, great if you're a big success in business, but you also need some faith-based teachings that are going to remind you that it's not all about the money. And it really isn't. Well, in some cases, if you don't have enough, it could be very well about the money. But once you get beyond that, you see that there's a faith that needs to be nurtured, that needs to be fed. And how do we do that? By our faith-based teachings. Whatever we study, however often we study, we try to study maybe at a daily basis, a weekly basis, whatever it is, he is saying wonderful, wonderful things. And this is the last teaching. And I just wanted to notice that Reva Brown is watching, and I wanted to say that I saw the notice that you posted today about this today being your father's 15th Yortzeit. 15th Yortzeit. So I wanted to remember that, and I wanted to say that we are with you in thinking about him, remembering him, dedicating so much of your life to his memory, and we hope and pray that his neshama has an aliyah today on his Yortzeit. Here's the last teaching that Hillel says in this chapter 2, Mishnah 6. One of my favorites. This is one of my favorites. Maybe it's one of your favorites too. Uvemakom she'ein anashim. In a place where there are no people, hishtadel lihiyot ish. Be a people. What a lousy translation I gave you. Here's what he means to say. In a place where there is no person. What does that mean? In a place or a situation that is begging for leadership. A cause that's begging to be led. That's begging for somebody to take the helm, take the initiative, and take the bull by the horns. In a place, ubemakom she'ein anashim, you're looking around, you know what needs to be done, there's something compelling that needs to happen, but you're looking around and ain't nobody coming to the fore. Nobody is volunteering. Something must get done, and nobody's ready to do anything about it. So, you know what he says? Hillel says, you be that person. You be that man or that woman. That's what he says. That's the interpretation. In a place where that person is not to be found, you have to be that person. You, God, Hashem, has blessed you with the ability to discern what needs to happen, what cause needs to begin, what issue needs to be spoken about. God has blessed you with the ability to discern what is next to happen in society, in your synagogue, in your neighborhood. These things must take place. And you're looking around and nobody's ready to fill in the breach. Nobody's ready to take any leadership. Hillel is saying, you be that person. In a place where there are no men, doesn't mean male, strive to be a man. In a place where there are no women, strive to be that woman. You become the leader. So, what would be the first line of defense of who, me? Who, me? I don't have the skills. I don't have the organizational ability. I'm passionate about it, but I don't have the following different details that makes a good leader. You'd be surprised how many people step into the breach of something and they're not sure they're really good at it, but there's nobody else around to take the helm. And you know something? They get good at it. They become decent at it. If they're not so great at it, they'll bring on somebody else who's really good at it. You know, not every leader is good at every aspect of the leadership. And there are many good quotes about what makes a wonderful leader. Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses was a wonderful, many wonderful leaders in our history. But the leader often just needs to be the, here's a food analogy, how surprising. When you make cotton candy, you know, if you ever seen the machine, you turned on the machine, all kind of wisps of cotton and sugar or whatever. The best way you could make cotton candy and give it to somebody is it needs that cardboard or paper cone. You put in the cone and then you turn it, for everything is in it. You turn in that cone and those wisps of sugar cling to the cone and they cling to the next wisp of sugar, and before you know it, you have this beautiful, lovely, edible, delicious cone of what? Sugar? Whatever it is. Anyway, sometimes a situation just needs that paper cone. And then things happen around that paper cone, if you know what I'm saying. So this is what Hillel is saying that, by the way, I had a teacher at Yeshiva University who said, and I think he was right on the mark. He says, you know, everybody has a Yetzer Hara. God created every human being with a good angel, do it. And a bad angel, don't do it. You're too nice, you're too kind, don't do it. Everybody was created with a Yetzer Hara, with an evil or bad inclination. And this teacher that I studied with at Yeshiva University, Rabbi Moses Tendler, some of you may know the name, he said, when your Yetzer Hara, when your bad inclination can't get you to do anything bad, because you're basically a decent, good, kind, gentle, warm, sensitive person. So the evil inclination tries to make you falter in every which way, but it's failed because you're a decent, good, kind person. Its last resort is to make you humble. What does that mean? The last resort of the evil inclination is to make a person feel like they're not up to the task. It makes them humble. Who? Me? I should be the head of that. I should spearhead the fill in the blank. I should take the responsibility. I'm too busy. I've got other things to do. Hillel says that's all fluff. When something really needs to happen, somebody's got to take charge. And if you're looking around and nobody's doing it, boom, mazel tov. You're the new president of the whatever. Somebody's got to take charge if there's a compelling reason to galvanize and get people together. So that's the sum of Hillel's teachings in chapter 2, Mishnah number 6. And listen, I don't have to give you a list of people that we may know, locally, nationally, internationally, Jewish, not Jewish, whoever, people who by themselves made a huge difference in life or in our history or amongst our people, amongst the nations of the world. We all know individuals who stepped into the breach and they said, I may not be the best person for this, but I seem to be the only person for this. And I think we can all name a lot of names. We've almost run out of time. I don't know that I'm going to mention any names, although I made a list. Okay, I'll mention one. I'll mention one name, okay? Rabbi Joshua Fass, F-A-S-S. Have you heard of him? Rabbi Joshua Fass. Used to be a rabbi in Boca Raton, Florida. made Aliyah, I don't know how many years ago, and he knew that somebody has got to spearhead Aliyah, people moving to Israel from all parts of the world, especially America, to come to live in the Jewish homeland. This was his passion. He knew that people ought to be here. People ought to come, at least visit more often, create a stronger connection. And he, I can't say single-handedly, but he and a partner of his started an organization called Nefesh B'Nefesh, and they changed the entire spectrum of what's going on in terms of Aliyah. I think Nefesh B'Nefesh is now about 10 years old, 11 years old, something like that. Thousands of people and families have made Aliyah due to their efforts. I'll give you an example. The Adlers, we came through the efforts and the enthusiasm and help of Nefesh B'Nefesh. And a lot of people say, if we didn't have that, we don't know if we could have come. They helped us, they organized us, yada, yada, yada. That's just one example of individuals who stepped into the breach and they said, this is what needs to be done, and who but us is going to get this done. So, dear friends, thank you so much for listening today. I really, really appreciate it. I hope you have a wonderful day. I hope you have a good week. I hope you stay healthy and happy. I hope you take care of all the different things that need to be done to avoid any kind of further coronaviruses. You know in your own locale what you need to do, and God willing, we'll all do our best to make sure that we stay happy and healthy. So again, thank you for being with us today. Really appreciate it. And take care and be well. Shalom, everybody.